And today's presentation is all about, these are going to be the top frequently asked questions that I get, or that I see posted on the YouTube, or not YouTube, but just different groups. So, hey, Connie, thanks. Glad to be here. Good, good. So we're just going to wait. We're going to wait till 3:02, and then I'm going to go ahead and get started. I always like to try to start on time and end on time because, I appreciate when people, appreciate my time or respect my time. So I want to, give that back to you guys. Now, during this presentation, because we do have a small group, if you guys have questions as I'm going along or need clarification, just let me know or put it in the chat and Mila will let me know. Mila is my right-hand person. I couldn't do a lot of this without her. So thank you so much, Mila, for always being here.
Thank you too.
This will be my third presentation today, guys. I went on the Real Estate Diva show talking about the shift in the market. I did a presentation for Real Estate IQ earlier today about the recession and your real estate business. So if you don't know about Real Estate IQ, they are a list subscription service. And they have a lot of videos, and that one should probably be up in 2 or 3 days, I think they usually take. But that was all about, the kind of the changing market right now. So, and with short-term rentals, I see that a little bit. All right, it is 3:02, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So again, I want to thank everybody for, tuning in or watching the replay. And I really appreciate you kind of hanging with me over these 3 days about short-term rental. I call them a challenge, but I'm not really challenging. It's more like a powwow, not even an infomercial. It's just kind of like information that will help you with your short-term rental. So the presentation today is basically I'm going to be posting questions that I am frequently asked and then my answers. So let's get started. As soon as I figure out, oh, there we go. All right, so the first question, and I mean, this is usually right at the top every single time. How do I find and evaluate a property to determine if it will make a good short-term rental? Now, the reason that I refer to short-term rentals is Airbnb is a company, and of course, it's the largest listing platform. So you'll always hear me talk about short-term rental, and sometimes I will interchange Airbnb, but that's a company name. So the short-term rental, but this is time and time again, I get this question. And so there's not really any one great answer here, right? I mean, so if you have no idea of where you should be looking or what kind of property, then you have to first kind of ask yourself some questions. So what I tell people is you just need to pick a destination, right? So, and you need to ask yourself who's going to manage and manage the process and operation. So if it's going to be you, and you've never invested out of state, then I wouldn't suggest your first short-term rental be out of state. To invest out of state, you've got to have trusted boots on the ground. You've got to have basically a team in place, cleaning, handyman, whatever your short-term rental is going to be, or a property management company. And if you are going to hire a property management company, then you need to know kind of what to ask the property manager and what you're going to get for your money. So I always say, pick a destination that you and your family would want to go to. That's how I started. I picked an area that I wanted to go to. And then, and you should just kind of do it in your own backyard. So around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there's a lot of cute little towns, within 2-hour drive. I do think with the way gas is and prices are that people will probably think long and hard about, flying. I mean, especially with all the issues the airlines are having lately, but a family vacation to fly to Hawaii to stay in Airbnb is going to be a lot more expensive than if you, have a kind of a Galveston, or, Houston has a lot of beaches. And, I've talked about Granbury and, even Lake Louisville here. I mean, it's one of the biggest lakes, man-made lakes in Texas. So the first thing I encourage is just pick a destination, either think about, and then you got to think about, you have to analyze the city, okay? Because what you're trying to do is figure out, should I open a short-term rental in that city? So first things first, you got to figure out what the regulations and restrictions of that city are. So for example, in Arlington, around the stadium over there are restrictions. They don't allow short-term rentals within a certain area of you just have to be in this certain bubble, if you will, of the stadium, historic areas. So you've got to figure out what, if any, do they have permits that you have to apply for? And that should be you should be able to find that right on the city's website. And then you want to know, so it's not only just the place that you want to pick, but what is going to draw people to that place. Yesterday I talked about Frisco, Texas, and they have the PGA, and it's close to transportation, and they have all these sporting events, and they have Cowboys headquarters, and they don't have the stadium here, but it's not that far to drive to the stadium. They have the Rangers baseball, so they have a lot of sporting events here. So, and then I would look at what are the low and high seasons. So this particularly is for sporting events. Pretty much all of those I just named off are year round, so they're always having something going on. But let's say you're in a ski area, and obviously the high season is when they have snow, and you can go skiing. And then they might have some summer months that people like to go and ride the what do they call it, the gondola or whatnot. I'm thinking of Telluride, Colorado right now. So, what are the low and high seasons, and who your target group is? Does the area attract those type of tourists or business travelers? Is it a college town? So if you are in an area where there's a large university, and they have a lot of football games and basketball games, and or parents' weekends, but then what happens when school's not in session? Are you going to be able to attract people? Or if you had a short-term rental that did really well 9 months out of the year, and those 3 months, and you didn't make any bookings, does the 9 months offset the 3 months? What type of tourist are you looking for? Families, couples, or groups of friends? Because that will kind of dictate the size of the property. And then you just need to answer the question, does the area attract enough people to keep you booked at least 50% of the time? Because anything under that, you're not going to be making money. So the first thing I tell people is, yes, kind of focus in on a destination, and then start answering these questions that go along with analyzing the city. Now, you notice I haven't even gotten to the property yet, right? Because again, we're focused right on short-term rental. So you've got to kind of analyze the area that you even want to maybe invest in. Then the next thing you're going to want to do is evaluate the number of short-term rentals in a neighborhood that you're looking at. So now you've done the city, and you're like, great, this is a great city. So let's just say, because I'm in Dallas, just say you've picked Dallas. There's a lot of events all year round in Dallas. Dallas is a great place to invest, but certain neighborhoods might not be the best for short-term rentals. So you have to get, first of all, a desirable location. Just like in any major metropolitan city, there's areas that, people aren't going to want to go to have a vacation. So, I always tell people to research the crime statistics of a given area. What are the nearby amenities, attractions? A couple of years ago, my husband and I looked at a very nice property. It was basically turnkey. All we would have to do is buy it. It was beautiful. It was, I think it was like a 4-bedroom. I mean, it was beautiful property, had a nice layout. The yard was wonderful. We could totally see this being a short-term rental. So we walk around the backyard, and it just, we did notice that it was at an intersection of a busy street. And I mean a very busy street. So we go in the backyard, and all we can hear is the traffic. Traffic, traffic, traffic. So then we went in and went up to one of the bedrooms upstairs, and traffic, traffic, traffic. Now, at the time, I did not want to spend additional funds to, try to soundproof this house. It did not have a pool. You could put pool features in, but if you have a nice backyard and not even if I had a pool or a hot tub, um, but when people are outside, they're going to hear that noise. And even though the house is beautiful, the location was desirable, the neighborhood didn't have a lot of short-term rentals in it at the time. We knew that if we bought a property like this and made it a short-term rental, it would only take one or two reviews for people to say, great location, great, next to everything, too noisy, right? If you get bad reviews about something you can't change and you've already bought the property, you're kind of stuck. So you don't want to buy something that's buy a short-term rental where there's a lot of road noise. And I'm saying that this was not going to change. And this particular property had an 8-foot fence. It had trees around it. It had nice landscaping, and even that didn't diminish the traffic because it's one of the busiest residential areas as far as it was on a major, one of those 4-lane going both ways intersection. And then you want to look at what type of businesses are in and around the area and are they open or closed? So why is that important? So another story for you. I went to go look at a property and I was looking for another property that was turnkey. I actually found a property on the MLS, and it just had everything I was looking for. And it was right on the water and I was like, okay, this is great. So my realtor takes me out there to look at it. And as we're driving through the neighborhood is very undesirable, right? Lots of old trailer homes, lots of trash in the yard, lots of beat up cars or abandoned cars in yards. And when we got to the house, I mean, even if the house had been really nice and everything I wanted, I wouldn't have purchased it because in this particular area, you need a car to get to the location. And so now everybody has to drive through this really rundown neighborhood. So again, it's going to come back to the property itself might be great, might be on the water, might have all the other things. But when you drive to it or your guests come up to it, not so much for them. The other thing that I noticed is there was a thrift store to the entrance of the subdivision. And at the thrift store, there was some homeless people. Now, I know homeless people have to have a place to hang out or whatever, but there was no way to get to this property without going right past that. And again, it's the attractiveness. It's what, you want people to, um, it's their experience. So when you're looking at a property, not just you're going to do your numbers, is it going to cash flow? You're going to look at those kinds of things as well. And then the other thing is on the other side of the street, there was a bunch of boarded up businesses and things like that. So it just wasn't a good match. And even further to that point, the house, when we got there, I told my agent, and remember, I'm a real estate broker, right? I said, you need to file a complaint about this listing agent because she had photoshopped the pictures because the house was not what it seemed. And I'll just kind of leave that story there. Then you're going to want to evaluate the other short-term rentals. Now, I've talked about this on the other presentation about, looking at, AirDNA and Airbnb. And the other thing you're going to want to look at is, do you offer or can you offer the same features, such as the number of beds, the bath, the amenities? And you really should try to find 3 direct competitors. And here's why. Number one, you want to figure out if they're being booked. I mean, if they're not getting any bookings, maybe that's not an area that people are going to flock to. And there's different ways that you can go to that. There's also a software. I don't know if it's a application, but it's called Mash Advisor. So like Mash, like you're mashing potatoes advisor. And you can go in there and kind of run rental. So it's kind of like AirDNA, except it gives you a little bit more. I do believe you have to pay for it, but it'll give you kind of an area of what the other Airbnbs are doing there. And if there is no competition, okay, then you need to, because since short-term rentals are, so popular right now and have been for the last 24 months, you need to find out why there's no competition. If you're in an area that seems perfect, and why wouldn't anybody come here? You can fall in love with the property, but you have to step back from a business perspective and see, well, would people really, want to come here? What would draw them? And just because you put a hot tub at the property doesn't mean it's going to stay booked, right? So there are other factors that go into that. Okay, next question. What are some budget-friendly things I can add to my short-term rental to make it stand out? So, as I've said before, when you have a short-term rental, especially if it's a first one, you're going to spend somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000 to furnish it, from, the furniture. Now, if you can, I've seen people that they say they do it for $5,000. Okay, maybe they can. But 10 to 15,000 is pretty average for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Now, if it's bigger, obviously it's going to cost you more. If it's more high end, it's going to cost you even more. If it's not so high end, or it's smaller, maybe it won't cost you that much. Or maybe you have some nice furniture in your house that you can furnish it with. So it doesn't mean that you will spend that kind of money, but just know that you do have to spend some money. So I wanted to come up with some ways that you could add to your property that won't necessarily break the bank. So number one, so if you joined my YouTube video, I did an interview with a gal named Martha who owns a cleaning service that does short-term rentals. And the number one complaint from guests that go into a short-term rental is cleanliness. So you might not have the most fanciest short-term rental. Maybe I have one that's very, very basic, but having it spotlessly clean. Okay. And what is it going to cost you? Now, if you're doing it yourself, great. If you're hiring a cleaning company, just make sure that they really know how to clean. Now, I'm talking about things that a lot of cleaners miss. For example, if you have lamps in your bedrooms, on a nightstand next to your bed in the short-term rental, a lot of times cobwebs will get up under the lampshade. And that seems like a little thing. And maybe, you and I wouldn't notice that if that's something that we would go, but your guests are going to notice it. Cobwebs in the corner. And these things happen because they've happened on my short-term rental, where I've gone in after my cleaners and I'm like, okay, why is there some cobwebs, up in that corner? They might be kind of, so they just need to do it. Ceiling fans. You have to have a cleaner that, when you hire the cleaner, you have to say, these are the things I want you to do. So getting the dust off the blades of the ceiling fan, comfortable beds and linens. So I've talked about this before. You need to make sure that you get very nice beds. That's where you really want to spend some money. As I've said before, if things go wrong with your short-term rental, which they will, you can really minimize how upset a guest can be if you have great communication and they got a good night's sleep. So, do invest in some nice mattresses. And I will tell you, this is personal preference, but I got a recommendation that I should buy these Zenus, I think they're called Z-I-N. It's like Linus, but it's Zinus or something like that. T mattresses. And I was like, oh, you can buy them off of Amazon. And they're relatively inexpensive for like a queen bed. I think it was around maybe $400, if that much. So we ordered that. We're like, okay, well, let's do this, because you will eventually be changing out your mattresses. And I did not like them. I'm not a fan of foam mattresses. I didn't sleep well on it. So don't cheap out there. And then nice linens. You can make almost any short-term rental look really nice, really welcoming, just by how you decorate the bed. I like white. I use white sheets. I use white quilts. I don't use comforters because they just take forever to dry in the dryer and they're kind of bulky. I have white towels. I do have black makeup towels, but I like the white feel. And then I have a spot of color with either colorful bed pillows. and then a blanket thrown across, or a skirt of some type. So you can make it very, very comfortable. And then in the bedroom, you should also have some room darkening shades so that people aren't woken up at 6 a.m. by the sunlight. And I have really invested in this. So what we did in the beginning, what we did is we did blinds, right? I got blinds, I got room darkening blinds, and that can get expensive if they get broken. So then I did some research and I found some really nice room darkening shades on Amazon. And, they're very basic blackout blackout curtains. That's what I'm saying, not shades. So if they get broken, and then they can be washed and all that. So the room darkening shades are a little on the pricey side. I actually have a patio door off of one of my bedrooms in one of my short-term rentals, and we invested. I think the shade that goes across it was like $600, and this was like a year ago. I'm sure it's much more expensive now, and I had to wait to get it. So if that thing ever breaks, yeah, I'll be going to the black room darkening curtains. So there, you can get them on Amazon, and that's definitely an investment that you should do. Now, just a little tip here. If you have a window that's, say, 48 inches wide or 36 inches wide, you're going to want to buy enough panels that there's no gap in it, because there's no point in having room darkening shades if there's a gap where they can see the light. So just make sure you kind of fill that in. That's just a little tip there. And then kitchen amenities. One of the number one reasons why people go to short-term rentals is so they can cook dinner and they can be together as a family or their friends or whatever. So you should, if your property sleeps 6 people, then you should have enough silverware for 12. Why? Because you don't want your guests having to do dishes all the time. By the same token, if your property sleeps 10 and you only have silverware for 8, okay, that doesn't make sense, right? Because there's not enough silverware for all the people that are there. And just kind of a little bit on that, on your short-term rental, when you're looking at spacing. So if your short-term rental, let's say it can sleep 10, right? You can figure out with the beds and all of that, you can get 10 people in there. But you have a dining space that's only for 6. So however many people you say you can sleep in your property, you also need to be able to say that many people can eat in the same area, dining room, maybe there's a little breakfast nook right there. But you certainly, like, I think people struggle with this with very small condos because they'll want to put 4 people in a condo. Maybe it's a 1-bedroom, but there's really like no place for anybody to come together to have dinner or play games or things like that. And then pots and pans, and then coffee pots, crock pots, blenders, and all of those things you can get all of the kitchen amenities very inexpensive. I think you could probably get all of that for just a little under $200. It doesn't have to be high-end pots and pans unless you have a very high-end. I'm not saying you have to outfit it for, gourmet kitchen, because your pans are going to get beat up. Your silverware is going to go missing. Your plates are going to get broken. The coffee pot's going to, not work. So, just think, quality, but you are going to have to replace it, right? But you don't have to spend an arm and a leg. And providing that, because remember, it's all about the guest experience. Like, how will the guest feel after they leave your property? Because in the end, a good host wants to get a good review from their guests, right? So I recommend that you put 2 to 3 towels per guest. This is bath towels. And of course, then you will want to add hand towels and washcloths. Toilet paper. I'm just saying right now, don't cheap out on the toilet paper. So I happen to have a couple of properties that have a septic system. So what I did is I invested in a cute little sign that goes above the toilet. And because if you don't provide enough toilet paper, you don't know what they're going to be throwing down the toilet, right? So I ask people, so I make sure I leave plenty of toilet paper. And as a general rule, what I'll do is there'll be 1 on the normal toilet roll holder, and then I have those holder things. And so there's 5 in each bathroom. So that's a total, because my property sleeps 6 to 8 people. So I want to make sure they have enough tissue to at least start, right? So it's never been an issue. You can buy it at, Costco or buy it off Amazon. You just don't want to cheap off there. And then same with paper towels. I provide 2 rolls of paper towels per visit. That's a starter set. They can get some more. And then I also get those paper napkins. I think people like those. So because if they make a mess or something, what are they going to use to clean up their spilled red wine or their greasy, I don't know, whatever they made on the stove? If you don't provide some of these things, they're going to use your towel. So you don't want them to do that. Now, how do I vet and screen potential guests for my short-term rental? So this is a good one. As many of you may know, that I had a property management company for many years, and I'm very versed in screening and doing background checks on all of my long-term rentals. So you can't do those kind of background checks. Sometimes I wish you could, but you can't on a short-term rental, because if you try to do it, first off, nobody's going to book, right? So you have to put some parameters in place. So here are just some of the questions that I ask. Now, I don't just bullet out this, right? So this is the information I'm trying to elicit from the person who's booking my property, because I have instant book on. So sometimes they can book, without me, asking all these questions, but then I can go back in and go, oh, hey, what's bringing you to Granbury or, Grand Prairie or wherever it is. So I want to know why they're coming. What's the reason? What's the purpose? And I will tell you, I've had people say, well, we're having a bachelorette party or a bachelor's party, and we thought your house would be really nice. Okay, no, we can't have a party, right? Why are you interested in the property? I don't really say it like that, but if you ask the first question, like, oh, why are you coming? And they'll tell you it's for the bass tournament, or it's my daughter's getting married, and we're going to be, staying here, or we're having a sisters get together, or girlfriend's weekend, or whatever it is. Um, and then you can kind of find out. So what the point is I open up a dialogue with the person to kind of find out why they're here, what attracted them to my property, and have they been a short-term rental anywhere else. So commonly what happens is you'll get an inquiry. This usually happens on Airbnb. It can also happen on VRBO. So as I said, I have instant book on. So that means if somebody finds my property and they meet the criteria that I've put up, like my criteria, which is not that much, but they have to have a verified ID, which is what Airbnb is supposed to get from them, and they have to have prior reviews, and they have to be good reviews. And then if they meet those 2 criteria, they can instant book my property. If they don't, they'll get an automated message saying, hey, we're interested, or thank you for your looking at our property. We'll get right back to you. And that's an automated message. Then I'll go in and say, oh, hey, thanks for looking at my property. Really appreciate it. Can you tell me what's bringing you to the area? And then they'll give me the info. And then I'll say, hey, I noticed that, you're new. So this has happened several times this past year. You're new to the platform, meaning that they just joined. They're trying to book in August and they joined in August. Okay. I noticed that you don't have any reviews and you just joined. Have you ever stayed at a short-term rental before? So you start having a conversation with them about why they're going. Now, this is probably not going to sound very scientific, but sometimes you just have to go with your gut when they tell you the reasons that they're coming. Either you'll get because you're doing this all through the platform. I also ask how many people, if it's not clear from the details, how many people is going to be staying there. And the next question I ask is, do they have pets? Because I let them know, hey, we're pet friendly, but, are you bringing any pets? And then this way, I'm not talking about emotional support animals. I'm talking about pets. And then they will answer back, yes, we're bringing 2 dogs. And then I'll say, okay, well, what kind of dogs are they? And it's not that I'm going to deny them or anything, but I kind of want to know, are they going to have 2 big dogs? Because the way we have our property set up, I want to know, okay, is this a dog that's likely to do A, B, and C, or be an aggressive dog or something like that? So it's just to give me more information. Now, one of the things that I thought about, I thought, well, I could, do a whole bunch more questions, but I thought, why don't I just make a list of mistakes that any host should avoid. So this way we're kind of capturing the what if scenario and then kind of giving you a heads up of some pitfalls if you're new to short-term rental. So number one, how can you get kicked off of VRBO and Airbnb and Booking.com? And you sure can if a guest complains about your listing. And the two biggest things that you can get banned from Airbnb, meaning your property, they're going to cancel. Let's say you have 6 bookings coming up and one of these things happen. They can literally go in and cancel all your reservations, and they call it suspension. So they will suspend you. And it may take weeks to be unsuspended because now you're saying, what's happening? So number one, the accuracy about what the guest can expect from your space or in your listing. So for example, you've got your professional pictures out there. You've got, exactly what the property looks like, but then they get there and it's nothing like the pictures. They can report you for that, send documentation, and then they get their money back. You won't get anything, and then you'll be suspended. That's one scenario. So one thing that happened to me is we had a couple chairs, like they were armchairs in the living area. And maybe a heavier person, maybe it wasn't built for a heavier person, or maybe kids did it, but one of the legs got broken. And so the piece of furniture was under warranty. And it took 3 months for the guy to finally get out there. But in the meantime, we took the chair out of the listing so it no longer was there. So every time I had a guest, I had to let them know, hey, in the pictures it says there's these 2 additional chairs. One got broken. We're still waiting for it to be fixed. Just wanted to let you know. So the listing picture, if they had walked in like, oh, well, hey, they have 2. Now this is just kind of a small example, but they literally could have caused some problems if I said, hey, you said you had 2 chairs, but you only have 1. Another example that we had is that we had a couple of huge windstorms here in Texas, and I had a very nice red umbrella that I had prominently displayed in a Airbnb photo listing, and that thing kept breaking, like the wind, just the way the property was. Every time there was a wind, I would tell guests to roll if they weren't using it, to roll it down, but it didn't matter if they were using it. So we went through, I don't know, 2 or 3 red umbrellas. And finally I said, you know what? I'm going to just eventually take that picture down. But I did have to tell the guests, hey, that red umbrella that you saw, it's not going to be there because it broke. We're still waiting for it or whatever. So if you change something out, but there's no pictures of the change, just let guests know ahead of time so that they're not kind of thinking, well, because think of it like this. If somebody leaves something out, then they're going to wonder what else you didn't leave out. The next biggie is the security cameras. Now, I do encourage all of the folks I work with to purchase. I use Ring cameras. I'm sure there's other ones, but I like Ring. They do audio and video recording. But you just have to disclose them in your listing. And not only do you have to say that you have them, you have to say where they're at. So if now obviously you cannot have cameras in the house, or you just can't have them in the house. That's one thing that will get you banned for. If you put a camera in the common area of a house, and somebody reports you, they're just going to suspend your account, and that will be a hard one to get back. So you just need to make sure that you disclose, kind of like that real estate thing. So I put my security cameras at all entry points into the property. Okay, so they're there for a reason. Security cameras. I'm not there to spy on my guests. I do usually check my cameras after the check-in time, for 2 reasons. One, I want to make sure that the number of people they said on the reservation is going to still be the same. And I also want to verify their pets. And let me tell you, and I'm pet friendly. I don't care if you bring your dogs. I just want you to tell me, and you have to pay my $150 pet deposit or pet fee. And so I had a guy over 4th of July weekend who booked one of our properties, checked, and obviously there were more people, but I didn't think too much of it. But the 4 dogs I did. I knew they were bringing 2. So you know what? I didn't bother going through the app. I just got right on the phone and called them and say, look, we have a 2-dog limit because they were all big dogs, right? So we got that resolved. I agreed to let him keep 2 of the dogs were leaving the next day, but I said, well, you've got to pay, so he ended up paying like $600, which was not a pet deposit, it was a pet fee. Be specific about your house rules. Like if you have no smoking in the property, you don't want pets, like we have no cats, that's our thing. Any additional rules, but don't write your house rules so negatively that no one will want to book your property, right? Like if you're like, do not do this, do not do that, do not, that's just going to turn people off because remember, they're looking at your property and they're comparing it to other properties, right? So you want to be specific about your house rules, but not, I guess, overbearing, right? Now, on the smoking thing, we allow no smoking, no vaping in our properties. That's in our rules, but people will smoke. So even what I would say is I've never had anybody smoke in the house, any of our houses, because I provide a smoking area outside somewhere away from the door because if people are going to smoke, they're going to do it. And so you might as well give them a place that they can go and smoke. Otherwise, they might smoke in your house. That's kind of how I look at it. One of the other things is if you get too many bad reviews, you could get suspended. So these happen with guest complaints. Now, I've already said the number one complaint from guests is cleanliness. And there are some scams out there where guests will plant dead roaches or accuse you of having bed bugs or mice infestation. So one of the things we do to kind of head all of that up is that because we're kind of out in the country, it's lakey, we have bugs. You leave the door open, you're gonna have bugs. So in my welcome and also my rules, I just say, hey, you know what? We do have bugs. We have regular pest control, but from time to time, there's critters. I call them critters. And so I approach it in 2 ways. Number one, I approach it like, hey, we're pet friendly. We want your pet to be safe because we have snakes, we have coyotes, we have rabbits. The snakes are probably the biggest thing, and we have lots of spiders. And we provide like a broom, an outdoor broom that people can. You could wipe down the cobwebs, and then 3 hours later they're back, right? The spider webs, or overnight. So it's a constant battle with the spiders. It is what it is. So I just communicate that to people, and I've never had anybody complain like, oh, you have too many spiders. Occasionally a spider will get in the house, not the big wolf kind or anything. So I don't like spiders either. But and all of this is done with a guest prior to them checking in. So they've already booked. And in addition to my welcome book at the property, when a couple of days before, or 1 day, 2 days before where they're going to check in, I have kind of a little script that I send them in 2 different messages. So one will be about, oh, hey, we hope you enjoy your trip. And, we have outside cushions and you can find them here. Oh, by the way, we do have pest control, but, we have spider webs and here's a broom and you can find it over here. So you can kind of cover yourself by reducing the guest expectation. And so when they see a spider web, they're not all freaked out like, oh my gosh, there's so many spider webs. Because I went to our property once and there were so many spider webs. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many spider webs. So now I can't say enough about professional photos, but they need to be accurate, professional, not photoshopped, right? And then you also want to make sure that you do neighborhood photos because literally I have worked with people that have very nice properties and there's a park across the street or they're lakefront and they don't even include that. So typically when you get professional photographs done of your property, or maybe you're a good photographer, but when you list it on the different platforms, what you want to envision is the person driving up to your property, seeing the front door, opening the front door. What do they see? The living room, the kitchen, and then if they go left, here's the first bedroom and there's the bathroom that goes with that. And here's the hallway. So you're kind of taking them on a guided tour via your photos. and then declutter the space, clear the counters and kitchen. So this is kind of like real estate 101. If you're trying to sell your house, you kind of got to stage it, get all your personal stuff out. But when you're having photos done, put that coffee maker under the cabinet. Don't put the toaster out. Don't put any towels that are hanging on the stove. Just make it as clean and open as you can. And then all the lighting, and if you have a photographer, a good photographer, he's gonna tell you this. Turning on all the lights, opening the blinds. Some of the best properties that I have seen when they say I'm not getting booked, it's the pictures are so dark. The pictures are the only thing that you have to grab the person to get to book. That's the only thing you have. It's not like you can talk to them about your space. You might have great descriptions of your space, but it's the pictures that sell your property. So if you don't get good pictures, it could hurt your pocketbook because you're not getting bookings. I do this on some of them, not on all my photos, but I'll put things now, instead of putting like dining room, you can say relax, with a glass of wine on the deck that overlooks the water or something like that, where it's a little bit more descriptive of not the space, but what the person could be doing in the space, like what activity, sit around the fireplace and, sing family songs or something like that. I'm kind of making that up. So highlight the experience the guest could be having if they book your property. So when they see a nice cozy bed, it just looks so relaxing, and you could say something like, rest after a long, long day shopping, or, maybe wine touring on this, soft, comfortable pillow top king size bed. Something that kind of is more descriptive of not about what they're seeing, but the experience. And then, as I said, place the photos in the listing as the guests enter. Now, one of the things that you can do to really help yourself is always write a review for each guest. Now, I'm going to be more speaking to like the good guests, like if somebody totally trashes your property, obviously you don't really care about leaving them a review. You want to make sure you get your money back. But the way the platforms work is you can write a review, and then of course the guest can write a review about you. Neither one of you see the review the other one wrote until both of you have participated in that. So one of the ways that a host gets higher up on the search, if you will, for the platforms is the number of reviews and the number of positive reviews. So to stimulate people to write reviews for you, because they go home, they forget or whatever, you can do a couple things. So number one, you could write your review first, right? Which I try to do. My cleaner goes in there and I'll just say, hey, did they leave it okay? And then I'll give them a review. And then you can message them and say, hey, I just left your review. Thank you so much for leaving our property. I really appreciate it. Hey, could you leave me a review? Something like that. And then then they'll be prompted by the platform to write you a review. If they write anything negative, just take a deep breath. I see a lot of people posting about, oh, the guest did this. Well, there is a way to respond publicly. It's hard to get a bad review removed. If they're doing it just out of spite or it's completely false, you can fight with Airbnb and sometimes they'll remove the review. But, generally the way you should handle it is just like anything professional. You're like, thank you for the feedback. Let's say they were complaining about spiders or something. We're so sorry that you had, a lot of spiders because of the rain. Like we had an instance where it had rained. So this was before the big drought here. We had a lot of rain at one of our properties, and the ants, the little like fire ants, are sometimes really hard to get rid of, and we had ants at a property. We had pest control going over there like every week, treating the yard. We just couldn't figure out where they were coming from. They finally found the nest. But in the meantime, they're coming into the house. Now, one of my guests actually did get bitten, and if you've never been bitten by a fire ant, not pleasant. But in addition to the fire ants, we also had little sugar ants. Now, sometimes guests leave food out and it attracts the ants or whatever. So she actually gave me a good review, but she wrote me a private note about the ants. And what she did is she contacted me the first night of their stay. And I said, I'm really sorry about that. We can get the pest control out there tomorrow, but I offered to relocate her because, that she said they were in the master bedroom, and because I was proactive and offered to basically help her find another place, they decided to stay. So she did give me a good review. I got a 5-star review, and in the private comments, she just talked about the ants, and I said, "Yeah, I'm really sorry about that. I'm glad it didn't hinder your stay or whatever it was." So you can respond to a bad review in a positive light. Reviews also help build up trust for your future guests when they see all. Now when you're first new to short-term rental, obviously you're not going to have any reviews, so you can ask your friends and families to go and stay at your property and write reviews. In fact, you should do that before you go live, just so they can give you feedback or whatever. But that's one way to get reviews too, is to ask some friends and families to go stay at your property, and then and they have to book through Airbnb, and that's a whole process as far as like how do they pay it, how do you pay them back or whatnot. The reviews also give you more exposure. So the more reviews you have, the more exposure you get, which more exposure is what? That's the views we talked about on, what was that, Monday? And then the views are what gets you booking. You rank higher on the platform, you increase your bookings, and you just build your overall reputation as a host. And you can earn the super host status, which is after you've had 10 stays in a row with 5-star, and you haven't canceled any. And I think there's one other thing. Oh, and your response rate is 100%. You're going to make super host. So it doesn't take long to make super host, but just remember, what Airbnb giveth, they also take away. So just kind of take that, you just want to do the very best job that you can for the very best guest experience. Because remember, I said that you're building a hospitality business. So, all right. And the last mistake that people make is list it and forget it. They don't realize that, you do need to be organized to manage the short-term rental. We talked about pricing strategies this week, and restocking and rebooking. And you can do it by yourself, but why would you? Especially if you don't live right next door to your short-term rental. So you can hire virtual assistants to manage your calendar and do all of the tricks that we talked about snoozing your listing and moving your pictures around. Must have cleaning, a really good cleaning crew. They can really be your eyes and ears of your property. They can let you know when a guest has, destroyed something or they left it in great condition. And the cleaning staff is how I'm able to give reviews, pretty 1 or 2 days right after the person has left. So, and they're also my eyes and ears. Like if I can't be at the property, which I'm not, they can let me know, hey, you need this repair, you're running low on toilet paper or the coffee or whatever it is. And then we have an arrangement of how I can get everything restocked. So it's managing the business, and how are you going to do that? So remember on day one, I talked about, writing a business plan. And it doesn't have to be anything outrageous. It doesn't have to be 15 pages long. It can be 2 or 3 pages. But some of the key questions that you're going to ask is, how am I going to operate my short-term rental? Who's going to manage it? Because it's one thing to find the property, analyze the city, make sure there's no restrictions, furnish it, list it on Airbnb, but then you have the whole, what are you going to do after that? How are you going to maintain? How are you going to increase your revenue? And using software tools, calendar management tools, having a reliable team, you should be able to have a very successful short-term rental business. All right, you guys, thanks again for attending. Still got those specials going on. I do have the short-term rental guide starter kit, and it has everything in there that you need to get started. And of course, the 3 courses where I'm teaching you all about how to start a short-term rental, mastering short-term rentals, and how to build an Airbnb business. So I hope you've enjoyed these 3 days. I've really enjoyed spending this time with you. I know that, this time frame, maybe next time I won't do this time frame, but if you have any questions, reach out to me at nancy@kbnhomes.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm really working on it for the end of 2022, and my goal is to get up to 500 by 2023. So Milo and I looked at it. We're at 213, so I got a little ways to go. So every person that goes on there, and I do have a lot of videos about smaller things about short-term rentals, like owner closets and stocking shampoos and things like that. So if that's something that and that's all free, so you can go on there. But if you are interested in having a consult with me about how I can help you get off the ground, send me an email and I'd be happy to schedule a call with you. I'm here to help you. So, all right. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions, Mila?
None.
None. All right. Because I just thank you, Megan. Appreciate it. Connie, glad you were here. And Joe, I think if you're still here, yes, thanks, Joe. But I've really enjoyed this. Teaching people about real estate investing is one of my great passions in life. And I'm all about, helping you get started. And I'll ask you some pretty hard questions. So sometimes it's not all, I want to know what your commitment level is. So thanks everyone again. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks again for joining me. Reach out anytime, Nancy at KBN Homes. Thank you so much.
Hi, Nancy. Sorry, Connie's asking. Yeah.
Oh, Connie, okay. I'm going to come back in here. Connie, ask me.
No, she just put it in the chat if the online course video is the online course video.
Yes. Okay. Let me kind of go through that because I kind of blasted through it. So I have created these online courses that are very specific to starting, operations, like going to insurance, forms that you're going to meet. And so each course has 3 to 4 hours of video kind of presentation style. Then there's downloads and things like that. So normally when I do these presentations, because I want it to be affordable, and so normally they just retail one of them is $4.95, right? So I decided to start when I do these, when people show up like you guys have done, I want it to be of value. So the 330, so basically it breaks down to $110 per course. So it's like normally $500. And if you sign up for we call it the Power Pack. Mila came up with that for me. And we're throwing in the guide. So the $50 guide, that gets thrown in. So you're literally getting like, what is that? $1,550. That's the retail, but you're getting it for $330. I have a money back guarantee. If you go and say, okay, no, so I have a 30-day money back guarantee, no questions asked. I get it. If you start looking, it's like, you know what, this is not for me. You just send me an email and, so I have no problem because I stand behind what I do, right? And then also just to kind of let you guys know, Milo and I are putting this together, but we're going to be offering for the people that signed up for my short-term rental challenge, this one, and then the one I did in May, we're going to be offering a community of short-term rental. And so what this is going to be is people who, participated in these events that I've been doing, that registered for them. We're going to be having a community. And so what this is going to be is live coaching with me. This is absolutely, there's going to be a small charge. So I used to run a couple meetups here that I would charge like $5, $10. So it's going to be something like that a month. And this is going to be me coming on once or twice a month, addressing any and all questions, making little presentations, but it's going to be for the membership. And it's going to be a networking community where you all can come together, you can ask questions. And so our goal is to grow that community of people who are looking to go into short-term rentals. So that will be something that you'll all be getting an offer on here. And we're hoping to have that launched by mid-September. We're still working out all the dynamics of, where we're hosting it and things like that. But I'll be coming on, and then we'll have a dedicated group. So it'll just be the people in the group. And then all of the calls, like even if you can't be on there, they will all be recorded and they'll be uploaded. So if you can't make it, let's say we're doing the call, at 6 o'clock on Monday nights and you can't make that, well, it will be recorded and it'll uploaded in this community, and only the people in the community will have access to that. So that'll be something that we'll be offering everybody who signed up for our couple of courses or for our challenges. And I'm really excited about that. I have missed doing my meetups, and many of you might know I used to be the chapter leader for the Invest Her here in Dallas prior to COVID. So now, because of my schedule and everybody else's, I have found it's very convenient to have online community. We all just can't get there. It's, if it's raining in Dallas or maybe you're in another town or whatnot. So I really wanted to bring this knowledge and this community together. And the only way that, after we brainstormed about it, was to do it online. And I think that way it gives everybody, and everything will be recorded and everything will be uploaded. So you'll always have a chance to go back and say, okay, we're doing this, we're doing that. So just know that that's coming for all of you that have been here with me, because I want to reward you with, some ongoing education. So hopefully that answered did that answer your question? Yes. So, and if you want more info or you just want to have a conversation, was that Connie? Then just, send me an email. We'll set up I'll send you a link to my calendar and we can chat too. So I'm all about that. All right, everybody. Any more questions? Do we have any more questions, Mila?
None. I just also posted the link for their
Oh,
easy
okay, there you
access.
go. There, she got it right there for you, so you can go right to it. So if you have any issues, just let me know. Thanks, Megan. I just really want to say, because I know it's a commitment and I love it when I see people, and you don't have to have large numbers. Real estate investing is a journey, and sometimes it's good just to do it one person and one step at a time, guys. So thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll be emailing. You'll be hearing from me. I'm doing some more videos for you. All right. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.